Okay, you can all hear me, and I'm going to share the screen now. And one of the things I want you to be aware of is I'm going to talk slowly because it's dependent on the internet speed that each and every one of you have, whether you see everything. When I come at the end of the presentation to showing you how to navigate Amazon and Netflix, I will slow down because I need the presentation to catch up to you. So, well, not that one. Come on. All right, that one. So, what is the objective of the group? We have three things we need to cover: the objective, the purpose, and the duration. So the objective of the group is having fun. Now, movies in the 30s provided an escape from the hardships of the Great Depression, allowing a glimpse into high society life, so far from rural life. People were fascinated by the movies themselves and by the glamorous lives, the men and women who starred in them. Today, we go to the movies because it's social, because people like doing things with other people more than they like doing things on their own. Because going to the movies is special, because going to the movies takes us out of our ordinary space. Because at a movie theater, you are safe from interruptions, safe from responsibilities, and safe from obligations. So the purpose, most of the movies will be on Amazon Prime or Netflix. I did a search on Amazon Prime, and I found about 200 movies with a Jewish theme. And Netflix had maybe 40 or 50. I do believe that all of you have a subscription to Netflix and to Amazon Prime. And I believe most of you, all of you, can view the movies on your TV. So you know what the cost is, but please let me know if you need any help with setting up on your TV. The next thing I'd like to do for this group, seeing that it's the first group, is to find out what genre of movie you'd like us to present. After all, this is your movie group. So are there any movies? First of all, do we present both movies and series? So what's the difference? A movie is obviously one movie. A series is a number of episodes that take place. There are differences between the two. And I also want you to understand that I may, because we're in a pandemic and because we're at home, I will recommend probably 5 or 6 movies at a time for you to watch. But we'll pick one movie for the next meeting to discuss. So the other thing I wanted to find out was how often would you like this discussion to happen? Once a month, twice a month? So can I get an indication on the screen? If you want it once a month, hold up one finger. If you want it twice a month, hold up 2 fingers. Rabbi Levi, can you count that for me? And the second thing is...
It looks like I see it's almost equal, but I would say there's more 1s than 2s.
Okay. The next thing is we have available to us either a Tuesday or a Thursday. So one of those days we need to pick a time. I chose arbitrarily 11 o'clock. If that suits everybody, we can keep it on a Tuesday at 11 o'clock and we can reserve that time. So you can let us know either through email or let us know through the chat what time suits you best. Seeing that we are the first session, we can choose whatever we like. Coming back to the slide, we'll focus on Jewish themes, but I need to know if there's any genres that we should stay away from. I don't know. What is a Jewish theme? If you search on Netflix or Amazon and you say Jewish movies, you're not only getting the movie, but you'll get Steven Spielberg with E.T., because Steven Spielberg is a Jewish director. So you're including in the broad search under Jewish, you're going to get not only the Jewish movies, but you'll get Jewish actors, Jewish directors, and all that. So we have to narrow that out. There was a controversial movie on Netflix called Jeffrey Epstein. He's a real piece of work. I don't know if that quantifies as a Jewish-themed movie. He is Jewish. So we need to get that cleared out. So the movies will go under the genres of feel-good, Israel, the Holocaust. When I come to the Holocaust, there are actually two separate genres of the Holocaust. There's the one that we've all seen with the atrocities and the horror movies. But there are the other ones that you see that of survival, of defiance, of making you feel good. So that would be the Holocaust. Provocative movies. This movie group came about when we watched Unorthodox and we saw their interest, and particularly afterward, the discussion with Rabbi Levi's mother-in-law on Unorthodox. So that would be provocative. Foreign language movies, there are a lot of movies in Hebrew, in Russian, and all that. All of them have subtitles. You have to let me know whether you want me to include that as well. Then we have musicals, of course, Fiddler on the Roof or Yentl, but then there are concerts that, for example, Issy does, or Isaac Stern. I don't know if you're interested in watching those. There are war stories, there are documentaries, and controversial. And we will try, if possible, if we have a movie, we may be able to get a guest speaker. So in the genres, I've put a couple of movies there so you can see what I'm talking about. In the feel-good movies, of course, Outback Rabbis for today. There's Arranged, Abe, Love in Suspenders. In Israel, these are Israeli movies, most of them on Hebrew. Make a Match, Tel Aviv on Fire, Against All Odds, Above and Beyond. Above and Beyond is a story of the formation of the Israeli Air Force in 1948. And then if it's a series, Fauda. Fauda happens to be one of the most popular series in Israel and in the Arab countries as of now. Holocaust. Well, we've seen Schindler's List. Last year, a movie by the name of Jojo Rabbit was nominated for an Oscar. When I saw that movie, it was awful. I just didn't know how I could sit in it. But I'm a member of another movie group, and we discussed it, and different things came up about that movie. It got into being a Jewish movie because It has a Jewish director who plays the part of Hitler. It has a young boy who's Jewish, and they had a Jewish girl at the time. There's the pianist, the Windermere children. Those of you who joined my email list got a notification that the Greater Phoenix Jewish Film Festival allowed us to view the Windermere children for free. This was a story of 900 children that were brought to Great Britain during the war and who survived the war. Then we have provocative movies, unorthodox, of course. Then there's The Get, Menashe, and anything to do with LGBTQ. Foreign language movies, Hebrew, Russian, Yiddish, musicals, controversial. These are series again. Stiesel, most of you have watched Stiesel, Shrugim. Stiesel, by the way, is coming out with a new season. The City of Joel and A Price Above Rubies. Then there are the documentaries. There's a documentary called Tech Talk, which I enjoy thoroughly, and it's about the tech industry in Israel and what inventions they have found in the last maybe 10 years, which is just incredible. Okay, we've actually discussed this over here. I jumped ahead of it. My mouse is very sensitive. I want to talk about sources of movies other than Netflix and Amazon. So first of all, there's the Greater Phoenix Jewish Film Festival. This is obviously a paid event. This year it's going to be held online. I haven't got details yet. When I do get it, I will pass it on to you. This is obviously a paid event. There is a site called JFlix, Jewish Flicks, which you can watch Jewish short films if you want. And there's also the Jewish Historical Society here in Phoenix, which I'm coming up with again with something else. All of these films you probably have to watch on your computer or your tablet. As far as the Jewish Film Festival is concerned, about 2 weeks ago they sent out an email. And in the email they announced this Senior Love Film Series, which they state that they're offering it to 40 senior centers in Phoenix. Now, Rabbi Levi and I know that the senior centers are extremely difficult to get into. I don't know how they're going to do it. But what really ticked me off about the film festival is they forgot completely about you guys, the guys who are living in your own homes. And I have written an email to them to say that they should not forget that there are many more people living in quarantine, and they should have the opportunity of watching these films. What I would like you guys to do is to send an email to and please not to forget about you, that they should include you, because they do have great movies that you can watch. Now, also remember, this is a paid-for event. You'll be able to buy tickets. I'm not sure for the festival or for a movie, but you'll have to choose what you want to see there. So, go grab your popcorn, your red vines, juju fruits, jujubes, red hots, sugar babies, goobers, and let's go to the movies. And don't forget your drinks, the Coke, the Fanta, the Shasta, the 7-Up, the root beer, but nothing diet and nothing sugar-free, because that's new. So I'm going to switch screens at the moment because I'm going to show you how to navigate onto Amazon. I'm going to start with Amazon. So I'm going to stop sharing this screen, and I'm going to share another screen. All right. This is where it might slow down a little bit. Whoops. I don't want that. Let's get that out of the way. And let's get this full screen. There we are. You can all see that? Give me a thumbs up if you can all see that. Great. Okay. So I'm going to get rid of this. On the left-hand side is your search bar. And what I want you to look at is, do you see my cursor going around? On the top left of every movie, there's a banner that says Prime. These are the movies that are available to you for free with your subscription. If you do not see that banner, it's a paid-for movie. So, if I go here, and I type in Jewish, this is what comes up. You can see what movies are available. Example, this one with Adam Sandler, Uncut Gems, which is awful. The only reason it comes up as a Jewish movie is because Adam Sandler is Jewish. So this is how we go and we search for our movies in Amazon. Now, if I go back here to the search bar and I search for Hasidic movies, I get a whole new genre of movies. What you have to look out for here is, if you're searching for a particular movie, you make sure that it's actually the movie you're looking for. Because sometimes movies can have, 2 or 3 movies can have the same name. There's no exclusivity of a name of a movie. So if I go back here and I look for Israeli movies, you find something else. And that's how we look for the movies. And you can see there's a lot. There's a lot of movies available. Okay, so I'm just trying to find one here. Do you see this one do you see this one says Israel, the Royal Tour? There's no banner on the corner, which means when I open that, you have to rent that movie. So usually that movie, it's pretty cheap to rent it, somewhere between $4 and $6. Okay, is everybody with me so far? Okay, great. So that's Amazon. Let's see. Again, you can see there are a lot of movies that are available to us. Okay, I'm going to go on to Netflix quickly because it's pretty much the same. Okay, so let's go to Netflix. Let's go to share screen. Netflix, share. Again, it's the same thing in Netflix. You search up the top here, and I search for Jewish. And this is what you'll get under the Jewish thing here. Now you'll see any one of them that's got an N on them, that's included in your subscription. So we've watched quite a few of these. They're actually pretty good. And we'll go through and discuss them afterwards. Again. So that's how we find the movies. I'm going to get out of this now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen again. So what I've done now is, oops, let's get rid of that. Okay, so these are 3 movies on Amazon, which you can take down. You can get them later. It's not a problem. Waiting for Anya, Arranged, and The City of Joel. These are 3 pretty good movies. And then coming back over here on Netflix, Anne Frank, Parallel Stories, which is really an excellent, excellent movie. One of Us and Menashe. These I've chosen for you to watch between now and the next meeting that we have. Between now and the next meeting. Menashe.
Yeah.
So you'll get these in the I can email this presentation to you, and you can get all of this. It's all there. And then lastly, before we go live, as a bonus, we just received this today. So the Jewish Historical Society has a free movie 18 Voices Sing called Nidre, which is streaming from September the 11th to the 13th. Again, I'll send it to you in a link. You need to log in and just reserve your places. This movie is free, and you'll most likely have to watch it on your computer or tablet. Okay, we got that. I'm now going to stop, and we're going to go back here and get back to you guys over there. No, I don't want this. And I'm going to exit this over here. I'm going to exit this, and I'm going to come back to you.
I'm muted.
All right. We're all back thing now. Now we're going to discuss Outback Rabbis.
Unmute everybody.
So I'm going to unmute you all.
What happened?
Did we lose Issy?
Can't hear him. Issy, we can't hear you.
I think we lost him.
We did.
He's going to have to log in again.
We can't hear you.
Okay. Now you can hear me.
Right.
Yes.
I don't know. Maybe Cox is going down. I don't know what it is. So the message that I got out of Outback Rabbis is, number one, it's the message from the Rebbe that no Jew should be left behind. Because to send these guys out into the sticks in Australia is quite a feat. So that's a message that they're carrying around there. If you haven't been to Australia,
I've been there.
I will bring on a map of Australia. Australia is bigger than the United States. Let's go. Okay. Let this come up. Oh, come on. There you go. Australia is bigger than the United States. These rabbis drove from Melbourne to Alice Springs, which is right in the middle of Australia, which is almost 2,000 miles. Australia is a continent where 90% of the people live within 50 miles of the coast. So the central part of Australia is truly barren. It is truly a desert. That's a big thing to go there. All right, I'm now going to go back again and share. Okay. The road trip that they took was quite something, taking little children and taking the Rara wagon, the Rara machine, which is Chabad of rural and regional Australia, and going out there and finding the Jews and doing their shtick. Rabbi Levi just sent me a message this morning that the two rabbis, the two families that were in the movie have retired from doing it, but they are being replaced by another two rabbis who are going to do it. The trip that they take is approximately 4 months, going nowhere. And you can imagine how they feel when they get to a town of 50 people or 100 people and they walk into the general store and say, are there any Jews here? I think that takes a lot of chutzpah to do that. A lot of chutzpah to do that. Anyhow, I think I've unmuted everybody, and let's hear what you've got to say about what you felt about the movie.
I think you summed it up by saying chutzpah. That kept. I had such chutzpah to do that. I could never do it. That's just me. But
You
what
have to hand it to the wives for going along with it.
Yes, absolutely. That was a challenge. That's a challenge for sure.
Not only hand it to the wives, but when it comes to, for example, the kashrut, if you're going in that Rara mobile for 4 months, you have to plan ahead where you're going to get food that's acceptably kosher. You saw that one scene where they bought some dishes or saucepans, and they had to go 25 miles to find a lake so they could toivel it. But it's admirable to see that they kept it. It's admirable to see how they kept Shabbat every week in that mobile home, in that RV that they had. And Australia is truly the boondocks. Texas has nothing on Australia as far as hundreds of miles between nothing.
If you're flying over the country, you can look down and look at the road for a half hour to an hour and not see a car on the road.
Yeah, we've been to Australia and we've been to Alice Springs. And that rock.
Well, that's a town.
Yeah, the rock that you saw, Uluru, is a sacred place, and it just appears in the middle of the desert, and there's a lot of mythology about it. It is really mystical.
It's like Hashem just took a rock and went.
Yeah,
yeah, right.
Dead center. Dead center.
I will tell you that the rabbis here in Phoenix and in New York have a much easier time. They can walk out the door and sneeze and have a Jew say Gesundheit right next door to them. That doesn't happen with these guys.
But there was another little issue in the movie that caught my attention. How did Jews end up in Australia? So I researched it and I found that after the war, the Australian government allowed 23,000 Jews to immigrate from the
33,000, you said?
23,000. And that started the immigration or the Jewish community in Australia. Now, there were Jews there before, but there were not a lot. Today, I think the Jewish population of Australia is maybe 120 to 150,000 in Australia.
177.
So,
But they're
yeah,
all spread out. They seem to be all spread out, not just in
they
one
are
place.
definitely,
Except for Melbourne.
Well, you got Melbourne, Sydney,
Sydney.
the two big ones, and then you got Perth.
Perth, right.
Yeah.
As my sister-in-law calls it, pathetic.
Perth is a schlep.
Perth is on the west.
I mean, Perth is completely on the other coast.
Yeah.
We have a friend who has a daughter living there.
Perth is further than from New York to Los Angeles. It's an
I
hour
have,
further.
I have to tell you that the Australians love Americans. Because
Well, they
we
did.
were taking a bus tour, and one of our friends happened to be a GI, and he was stationed in someplace in Australia, and he went into a bar, and he was wearing his uniform, and they would not take his money. So I was sitting next to this man on this bus tour, and he said, you know, we love your country. We love Americans, because without you, we would all be speaking Japanese.
Right.
Well, when we were there,
That's
which
a true
was
story.
we were there a number of years
Yeah,
ago.
right.
Around,
You would not be
We
happy
have a
about
Japanese daughter-in-law. Her attitude is, what's wrong with
it.
that?
Right, exactly.
well, we were there around the 4th of July many, many years ago, and we were in Alice Springs, and there was Ted Egan was like a folk singer, and they asked, you know, how many Americans here, and so we raised our hands. We were the only ones at the time, and they said we should have done what you did and gone and gotten broken free from England, and they really had a lot of respect for the Americans. They treated us extremely well. Every stop we made, it was amazing.
I wonder how it is now. How is it now with all the COVID? They still feel the same way? They still feel the same way about us?
I have no idea.
Australia caught the same disease that America's got with protests. I'm not talking about COVID, with the protests. So the west coast of Australia, in Perth and Western Australia, they were, I don't think they had more than 10 deaths to the COVID. I don't think they had more than 10. But on the East Coast,
yeah,
it's a mess.
One thing that amazed me when they were interviewing the different people, if I understood it correctly, they interviewed one fella who said his parents escaped there from the Holocaust, and they wanted to get as far away from the city so the SS could never find them.
Right. Yeah,
that really, wow. I thought that they really just wanted to get as far away as they could.
Right, and then you remember that scene, I don't know where they were, in the middle of nowhere, where they found that Nazi museum with all that memorabilia in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
So
right.
They do have their white supremacists in Australia, the same as we've got in here. They definitely do.
I was surprised to hear that it was commented in the movie that outside of Israel, Australia has the largest number of Holocaust survivors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's probably true. I have to say that South Africa also had a lot of survivors of the Holocaust survivors.
It surprised me when the rabbis went to all those places and just walked in anywhere and said, are there any Jews here? You know, that was an interesting way to, you know, it was direct and it was forth. It was just interesting that that's how what they did.
Well, the other thing was that the rabbi was davening in the middle of the street, so if there were Jews in the area, they could spot him.
Right.
Purposely did that.
I'm going to chime in.
Yeah.
Yo, Phyllis, say what you wanted to say.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think the movie showed what a team that these couples are. Work so closely together. They are definitely co-directors, or, you know, they really are a team. And I don't think they could do it unless they had each other.
There's one scene in the movie that's going to stick with me for a long time, and I'm paraphrasing it, but one of the rabbis was explaining to a non-Jew why he was doing it. And he said, for hundreds of years, people looked for Jews to hurt them, and Chabad looks for Jews to love them. And that was pretty profound.
Right.
Yes.
Right. I think to use the more direct quote was, they were hunted to be killed, so we're going to hunt them in love.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's definitely a powerful line. I actually want to just comment on 3 things that were mentioned already, but just to add to it. First of all, earlier, I think someone mentioned about the woman being a support, and I think, I don't know who just spoke, it was Phyllis, that just said about, it's not about a sport, it's a team. So that's one very true point. And then the davening in public is definitely not common. I remember I was just telling this to someone over the weekend, that when I was in yeshiva, I was 17 years old, and there was a rabbi in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, that was doing a Shabbaton in a hotel, and they wanted some help. So they asked a friend of mine who already had gone there once in the summer if he would be able to come and bring some friends. So we asked our teacher in school, it's like the principal, if we can have permission to miss Friday, but we would be back in school on Sunday. So we had school 6 days a week. You have even classes on Friday. So the principal was like thinking, and then he's like, you know what? If you daven in the airport in public, I'll let you go. Right? And I was thinking, I thought it was like a crazy, first of all, no problem, I'll do it. Especially we're going to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina for the weekend. But really, I think his point was the same thing. It's like, you know, show that you're proud to be Jewish. Most people don't put on a tallis and tefillin in public. I mean, if I'm traveling on an early morning flight in Arizona and I need a daven, and it's either going to be on the airplane or it's going to be in the airport, I'm going to find a gate that hasn't, you know, maybe they just boarded a flight, so it's empty, and you know it's going to be empty for the next hour. That's where I'm going to daven in a corner. I'm not going to do it in public. It's just not a common thing. It gets a lot of stares. But on the other hand, I've done it in airports, and people have come over and said they're Jewish. So there is this connection, I guess. And then asking anyone, I mean, that's a tough one. I was in Argentina. I still remember this. I didn't know how to ask, are you Jewish? So I asked, because that's how we do it. You know, you can go ask a Jew, are you Jewish? Some people don't like that, which is going to lead to my next question after this. I think will be an interesting part to this discussion. But we would go into these stores in a certain area in Buenos Aires, and we would ask people, are you Jewish? We'd say, ustedes judío, are you Jewish? And they'd answer back, no, I'm Korean, or I'm, you know, like what are you talking about? But the point is it's a very in-your-face ask to a degree. So I once went on campus here in ASU with Rabbi Taftel, and it was Sukkot time. So instead of asking, are you Jewish, he taught me something which till today I really liked. He basically was walking around with a lulav and an etrog, was Sukkot. So instead of asking people, are you Jewish, he would ask people, say, hey, do you know what this is? Right? Most Jews will know what a lulav and an etrog is. Others who don't, but are interested in learning about it, say, no, what is that? They say, oh, it's a Jewish holiday. And they'll say, oh, I'm Jewish. Or they'll say, oh, I'm not Jewish. So it's just a different type of an ask. But again, it is very in your face, and some people don't like that. Usually, who doesn't like it? Usually Jews. But I am curious to sort of bring the conversation in a different direction. Obviously, there's a lot of good feeling for this documentary, it seems like. Was there anything that that you didn't like? Was there something that stood out? Ellen, you want to say something? And I don't want to steal this. I want Izzy to go back to hosting this, but you know, so there's got to be something that you didn't like out of it all. I mean, you don't have
a technical question. In one scene, they brought a tefillin to a guy to put on, and he put the tefillin on without a talit. Is that acceptable?
100%. So that's a very good question for anyone here who you always associate it with prayer. Prayer, you always have a talit and tefillin if you're going to use it.
Yeah.
But each one is its own mitzvah. So if I traveled and I didn't have tefillin, for example, which I always travel with tefillin, but let's say I didn't have it, and I am able to get access to a pair of tefillin, but they don't have a talis, you still put on the tefillin because that's its own unique mitzvah. And the same thing is, the talis is its own mitzvah without tefillin. So if you don't have tefillin, you'd put on a talis, say the blessing.
One thing I didn't like was the confrontation he had with that black guy who wanted to learn about Judaism, but the rabbi said no.
Right, and actually,
I actually off-putting.
Is that the one that he wanted to convert, and he's like, if he asked the third time?
Yes.
I actually think, I mean, I would never speak, I mean, I'm not speaking positive or negative about the rabbi in the film, but that is the greatest myth that you have to ask 3 times.
That's right.
So really, he could have already started answering questions. There's no such thing as you have to show me that you're truly earnest and ask 3 times that you want to know and more to convert. So again, I think that was just a misguided answer.
The other problem with that one was, does it come across to the black guy as racial?
Exactly, I thought about
That's the other aspect of it.
It's funny because that is one point of the film that I agree with. I don't necessarily have the same feeling of why or what, but I do know that was definitely an incorrect answer. Right? He could have answered more and said, here's a great website. But I assume, you get your feelings from conversations, and I don't know, and we only got a snapshot of the bigger picture,
right?
Because there are enough crazy people in this world that you get a vibe from conversations, and in that situation, you truly want to know that they're not just making you crazy. You would definitely want to see some more interest. Call me. Here's an email address or something.
Yeah.
But I do agree with you. I also that was one little scene that had a feeling to it that wasn't necessarily the best.
So sorry.
I have to ask the question when he was in I think it was a bar or restaurant, and asked if he knew of any Jews, and the woman said, "Well, my grandmother was a Jew." And he says, "Well, then your mother is a Jew and you're a Jew. But is that really a Jew? I mean, are you a Jew? Or if you're not if you don't practice, what are you?"
You're 100% equal Jew to me and you.
Yes.
That's a common, in Judaism, you could be an atheist and you are equally Jewish to every single one of us who are born Jewish. You could even be a convert who converts properly, changes their mind 3 years later. You can't let go of that Judaism. Once you've done, that's just the Jewish law. Once a Jew, always a Jew.
It was surprising how many people found out they were Jewish and actually and had never practiced. And actually, at the end, they all gathered together. That was really very interesting.
Right. That Torah celebration was quite fat. I thought that was pretty amazing.
Well, that's their whole point of going to find Jews, is to make a community.
Right.
Now, how
often did these rabbis make the trip?
Say that again?
I thought it was very touching when
Alan, we'll get to you in a sec.
When the guy who really wanted to be Jewish put tefillin on. I thought it was it brought tears to my eyes.
That's one of my that was towards the end of the movie. Yeah, I thought that was very special.
Yeah.
How often did the rabbis make this trip through the Outback?
So this is what Izzy was mentioning earlier. While Izzy and I were doing some test runs today, I went on Facebook. There's actually a Facebook page for Rara. That's what they call it, right? Mm. And I shared a video with Izzy from 11 years ago.
Yep.
They do it all the time. So apparently it's every year, all the time, and some groups will do it for 1 year. I guess when it's with family, it might be a different. You choose how long you're going to do it. But there's people doing it right now on their Facebook page. There are active events and classes going on right now. Different rabbis than in the movie. I thought that was interesting.
At the end of the movie, they dedicated the Torah,
right,
which is for rural Australia. Where is that kept? It's not in Melbourne, is it?
No, I don't know. Izzy, did you catch where they keep it?
I think that they take their Torah with them in that Rara mobile, if you ask me. I don't think they definitively said where it is, but I think they take it with them.
Let's see if there's a website.
I thought they had to have a certain number of Jews in order to get the Torah to that place. I thought that was...
They had a fundraise to pay for the Torah. They had to have a certain amount of funds.
Yeah, it's expensive.
Rabbi, how do you spell Rara?
R-A-R-A.
It's an acronym.
Acronym.
R-A-R-A.
Yeah. I just want to mention to all of you, I do have an email blog ongoing. So please just send me your email address if you want to be on that list, and I will include you whenever I find stuff in between our meetings. The other thing that I wanted to ask is, does anyone have an interest in Yiddish theater? Yiddish movies?
Oh.
What?
In Yiddish movies.
I went to my first Yiddish show when I was a little kid. I saw my first English show I was 15 and a half. But I saw Menashe Skolnick, Morris Schwartz, Molly Pecan on the Yiddish theater. I saw Molly Pecan on the English stage too. But
I have to tell you that I went to Yiddish Paris Folk Show, and I was on the stage in Chicago at the Jewish Theater with Menashe Skolnick, with Molly Pecan, and I met Molly Pecan years later at an orchestra hall in Chicago, and I went down to talk to her. I tell you, the woman she was old already. I was young. She was crying, not to be believed, that I came to talk to her. So Yiddish is my second.
It's interesting. I remember a routine on the Yiddish stage. Menashe Skolnick is standing up, and his actress Yedith Sverling, who was a comedian and wore crazy outfits, and she had a hat with vegetables on it. And he reaches onto the hat with vegetables and pulls off a radish. And he's about to eat it, and she stops him, and she opens a bag and hands him a salt shaker. Now, I must have been maybe 10, 11 years old. I still remember that.
I have to tell you about the movie. It brought back some things. I was in Paris, and we were sitting at a long table, and they got everybody sit with you. And this woman sat with us with a little dog, and I was very young. I was in my 20s. I was married. And I said to her, "Oh, are you Jewish?" She says to me, "Excuse me, I'm Parisian, and then I'm a Jew." I was flabbergasted. I wanted to say to her, "I'm a Jew, and then I'm an American," but I didn't say that. So anyhow, everybody's got different things. And with the Chabad, another incident happened. I lived in Chicago. I had one child at that time. I kept strictly kosher, so I went to the 999 store on Mozart and Devon, if anybody knows them. And the Chabad had a truck out there. And of course, they spoke Yiddish to me. And this rabbi comes up to me and says, "Little girl," in Jewish, little girl, are you going into the store?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "Are you Orthodox?" Well, I was very conservative, not Orthodox. And I said, "No, you do not have a religion." I started to cry. I went into the store. I knew the people in the store. And I said to him, why do you have that truck out there? I'm scared, terrible. He really hurt me. And I was very sensitive. So he said, well, we do it. You don't have to worry about it. They're nice people, this, that. I said, but you know what happened just now? So I told him the story. He says, go home and forget about it. Just do what you're doing. So it was scary. It was very hard. As far as them going to Australia looking for the Jews, I give them credit. They got a lot of chutzpah.
Right.
So that's
you know, I always like this story that they shared. We have different ways of serving God, right? There's through love, through fear, through hate. I don't want to use hate, but through fear of God, love of God. So there was a rabbi, his name was Rabbi Hillel of the city of Parich. So this is 300 years ago. And he used to share this teaching that sometimes you need to serve God with your ego. What does that mean? He would say, he says, I, Levi Levertov, am going to do that. I'm much greater than that. That's beneath me, right? So you sometimes you use all the different, I guess, personalities and characteristics that we have in the service of God. Sometimes it includes the ego, that I'm better than that. I'm not going to sink to such a level. This is just another little take on that.
Mm.
There is a prayer that I always find disturbing and refuse to read because of the English translation, which is, oh, God, if you're good and pray, and God, if everything goes right, God will give you rain and all that. And then if you're not, we'll close up the sky, there will be no rain.
Right.
The idea of threatening is not my idea of what Judaism is about.
So how do you explain it?
That's
in the Torah. How do you explain it? That's a verse in the Torah.
So I don't
have an answer
in the Torah.
I have an answer for you. I think this is the beauty of learning with different perspectives.
Right.
The Hasidic perspective for you. That is not a threat. If I wear a bulletproof vest and I go to war, bullets are flying everywhere anyways, right? My bulletproof vest will protect me. But if I don't have a bulletproof vest on, bullets were flying anyways. So if I get hit, I have no protection. So the way that the way that I always learned those verses was not that if you don't do it, God is going to punish you. But the world has a very strange thing. Right now, we're 45 days, the hottest summer in Arizona history, right? The heat's here. If I don't have an air conditioner, my house is hot. If I have an air conditioner, my house is not hot. Just reversed. So the same thing is with mitzvot. Things in our world are always coming at us, right? There's good, there's bad, there's challenges. When I do mitzvot, I am wearing that bulletproof vest. I have that air conditioner. If I don't have it, it's not a punishment. The world is moving on its own. So those things, droughts happen. We look at Arizona. I think Arizona is a good example of that. Heat happens. So those things are protective. If you don't do it, then whatever happens in the world is going to happen. But if you do it, you have that protection. That's a very different perspective.
What do you do with the heat? I mean, let's be real. If you say that prayer, you don't say that prayer, even if you have air conditioning, it's still hot outside.
Exactly, and that's my point. I'll never forget this. A woman maybe 4 or 5 years ago told me that she never did laundry on Shabbos. I'm not using her name because many of you people know her. The one time she did it, she had a fire that burnt down her house. God was punishing her. I'm like, are you crazy? You had a fire in your dryer because you didn't clean the lint. It had nothing to do with God and you doing it on Shabbos, right? So, but she wanted to blame it on not listening to God. I said, no. The fact is, nature takes its course. Sometimes we need something to protect us from nature. Right, so maybe you wouldn't have done on Shabbos. I don't know. Would you have a fire on Sunday? Probably. But the point is, maybe that extra protection would have been there. Where does this come up a lot? There is I don't know if you know, but in Chabad we say, you're going through a tough time, whether it's illness or financial or family. We say, do a mitzvah, take on a mitzvah. People who were sick, the Rebbe would say, go and check your mezuzot and your tefillin, check the scrolls. So a guy once asked me, he says, I don't understand. So if they're not kosher, God's therefore hurting me. He's punishing me because my tefillin weren't kosher. Says, no, that's not the explanation. You did something that I fell playing basketball. I shattered my wrist. I fell. The natural reaction is when you fall and land on your wrist, it shatters, it compresses. Your tefillin, though, might have protected you if you had that extra protection.
Oh, no.
Like Rabbi Akiva, his daughter had said, this is what they told him. They predicted that his daughter would die on her wedding day. And he never told her this. This is a story you can read in the Talmud. The next morning after the wedding, she wakes up and he's shocked. But here's what happens. She wakes up and she pulls her brooch or something, a pin out of the wall in her house, and it's stuck in between the two eyes of a snake. So she shrieks, she yells, right? Rabbi Akiva comes and says, what happened? So she says, I pulled my thing out of the wall, and look, I killed a snake. It literally pierced it between its eyes. So he told her the story. He said, listen, I always knew that you were supposed to die. It must have been, this was the messenger, right? The snake was going to kill you on your wedding night. So what did you do that saved your life? That was how he phrased it. So what is the story at her wedding? In common Jewish circles, when you go to more religious circles, or I shouldn't say more religious, but very Jewish, traditionally steeped circles, when there's a wedding, beggars come to the wedding. People who are uninvited, they come, they show up, they want food, and there's a meal. Well, at her wedding night, she saw two beggars, and no one was feeding them. No one was helping them, so she went and brought food to them. So Rabbi Akiva said from that story, it's clear that tzedakah, charity, saves you from death. In other words, your charity merited and protected you. Nature was that the snake would have killed her. But she did something that gave her a bulletproof vest. Right? She put on a bulletproof vest. So it's not a natural reaction that therefore if you didn't pray or you didn't do this, you're going to have the worst year of your life. I don't need to tell you, we could look at this world and see many people that are not living up to that standard and are living very, very good lives.
Yeah, why?
Right? So clearly it's not meant in the way that it's an automatic cause and reaction, cause and effect. But again, that's just my little spiritual perspective to your point. Lou, are you saying goodbye or you have a question?
Oh, okay. Comment. About 3 years ago, I was walking down Broadway in New York, and suddenly I'm shaking a lulav and esrog, and this young man is leading me through the prayer. And I'm saying, why am I doing this? And it was because, I wouldn't do it other times. I'm not there at the synagogue to do it, but I'm proud to be Jewish, and so this was a chance to do that. And then we went to went to see the old synagogue in Florence, and it wasn't open, but we saw it, and I looked down the end of the block and I see Chabad, and this guy's down there, and he says, let's see, I put on tefillin here about 6 months ago somewhere, and then I put it on in Israel on the army base, and so I walked down the street, and he says, so you put on tefillin with me? And I said, okay, and we did that and had a conversation. Then he turned to Janet and he says, are you Jewish? And she says, yeah. He says, was your mother Jewish? Yes. Oh, okay, come, yes. And but it's interesting. You see these, and these are all Chabad people. I don't know if he was Chabad in New York or not. Just
guaranteed it was.
There are people.
And so interesting. You have here. You go to services online. You go to services sometime during the year, but Chabad is always there. It's just an amazing organization. And I've run into it in these strange times, so I wanted to take part. I wasn't, they weren't intruding on me at all.
I will, does anyone here know Nate Sachs? He passed away November time last year.
Who?
Nate Sachs.
Nate Sachs.
Yes, Rabbi, I knew Nate.
Oh, so Carol, you might know this story then. I've heard it from him. His connection to Chabad is through a gift shop in Scottsdale. But he also shared this story that in Manhattan once, it was Hanukkah. He wasn't really doing anything Jewish. He came out of the subway, I think, and it was someone offered him. He said, "Are you Jewish?" Yes. "Do you have a menorah for Hanukkah?" He said no. He was like staying in a hotel or something. He gets to his hotel and he realizes he doesn't even know what night of Hanukkah it is. So he lit the entire menorah. 8th night, 6th night, he didn't know. But it's the same thing. Those were two Chabad guys who were out on the streets asking people, "Are you Jewish?" But the reason why I asked earlier was if people have any sort of reservation. Not everyone who is Jewish likes that. I say specifically Jews because there are many people who are out, not out in the open identifying as Jewish, it makes you sort of confront your identity. For some who have really not necessarily ran away from it, although in the movie we had that one family that ran away from it. But even not necessarily running away, but like very private about it because they are going to feel judged or they won't fit in their social circles. So in that regard, that's why I was wondering if anyone had any reservations about it. Ellen, you're muted, so we would love to hear you, but.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, last October, after I visited the ER because my kneecap split in half, my son took me home back to his place in a wheelchair. And we passed one rabbi, and he and my husband said, "Oh, keep going, keep going." The second time I saw one, I said, "No, we're stopping. This year I can't make a sukkah because I've got a leg and a immobilizer. Let me at least be able to shake the lulav." And the guy, he says, "Are you Jewish?" And I said, "Yes." And he did the lulav and the etrog with me. And then we went by a sukkah, but I feel, well, at least I saw one. I didn't want to go in because there was a class. But I had to stand up for myself. If I listen to my kids.
So you should ask your kid why he was afraid.
He didn't want to be bothered. But I said, "Listen." I thought, I cracked my knee on your step, so the least you can do is let me take the lulav.
Rabbi.
Yeah.
Can I chime in for a second?
For sure.
So, first of all, we need to pick a day for our next movie group. And I'm going to suggest the 3rd Tuesday of every month.
Fine.
Okay, and hopefully 11 o'clock suits everybody. And then
it seemed like that was the best day.
Okay, and I think that we need to take the Rebbe's mantra of "No Jew left behind" and apply it to smiling seniors to say "No senior left behind."
Maybe that should be our new tagline.
Right.
We'll need to put that up for a vote over here.
Okay. And I just want to comment that
the first Tuesday, is that what you said?
3rd. He said
3rd.
3rd.
Okay.
Isn't that Rosh Hashanah? Wait a minute.
That's 2 days before. It'll be Thursday before Rosh Hashanah.
Okay.
Wait a minute. You're meeting on Thursday?
No, Tuesday.
Oh, sorry, Tuesday. Sorry.
Tuesday.
You send the notice, right?
Yep. You get a notice.
The 15th, September 15th.
Okay.
I tell you, I did not use these things, but I hear everybody better for some reason.
What she said?
Rabbi, I want you to relate the story.
Ella, you just said that. Are you serious?
I wanted to relate a story to you about Chabad. About 25 years ago, my brother, who lives in South Africa, was in his house at home, and he has 2 steps from his living room to the bedrooms. And he tripped down the step and he broke his ankle. And he went to hospital and he had one operation, another operation. Anyhow, almost 10 months later, his leg never healed. He couldn't, I think he had 3 or 4 ops, never healed. So someone said to him, "Write to the Rebbe." So he wrote to the Rebbe and he got an answer. And the Rebbe said, "Check your mezuzah." So he took all the mezuzahs off, checked the mezuzah, and the mezuzah that was on that step, because it's an archway, turned out to have the lamed cracked. The lamed. So he said, that's why your leg won't heal, because the lamed is cracked. And he replaced the mezuzah, and I think 3 months later, his leg was fine. Now, was that something? Was it not? But it's something.
Maisalach. Yeah, okay.
What do you mean? Bella, this is a known Jewish thing. It's not a new thing. That our spiritual lives are intertwined with our physical life.
You're right.
Oh, yes. I agree so much, Rabbi.
I didn't make that up, so you don't have to agree with me.
Issy, what movie are we going to discuss in September? Out of the 6
What do you want to pick?
On my
I like Anne Frank parallel stories.
Yeah, well, you're in charge, Issy, so you get to choose. So is that it?
I will say that's going to be it.
Okay, good.
What is it going to be?
Anne Frank parallel stories on Netflix.
Okay.
You'll get it in an email. We'll follow up in an email, because I'll also have this presentation attached to the email so that you can get all the information, the web addresses that I gave you. And I'm really so tickled that a really simple, plain movie generated so much discussion and so many points. And that's the beauty of the movies. The movies are here to teach us, to entertain us, and to make us think.
Okay,
this did it.
Just interruption. Again, I'm going to send out an email as well, but if you want that PowerPoint, email Issy directly. That was Issy, that's spelled 2 S's, so ISSY, at sosaz.org. He'll be able to send you that, and he'll do his own independent emails of different films like he shared today that the Jewish Film Festival is sharing with him that he's able to share with others. So I put it in the chat again. It's spelled ISSY at sosaz.org.
I got it.
I really suggested Shrek. Shrek means holler, like, right? Bella?
Shrek means afraid.
Shrek is what?
Afraid.
Bella, thank you for correcting her Yiddish over here. I love
Myra,
it.
my love. Shrek means somebody got scared.
Yeah.
Okay. But the movie Shrek is a kid's movie.
Right.
Taken into being an adult movie.
That's a similar parable to Jojo Rabbit, if any of you saw that.
Exactly.
It was just a movie that cringed me. We were in the movie house. I was with Pinky, and her sister from Australia was here. And she wanted to walk out after 10 minutes because she couldn't take it. But Carol, you know, we discussed the movie. A whole lot of other things came out about it. And in the end, what made me appreciate the movie was the Jewish girl that was saved. And what she went through hiding in that little closet, and she befriended the little boy, and she was saved. Otherwise, I don't appreciate those kind of movies. I don't appreciate those kind of, but still, in the list, when you look on particularly Amazon, if you just search Jewish, Hasidic, Israeli, there are at least 200 movies that you can see that are really, really good. This other one that's in my recommendation called Menashe, Menashe, how you pronounce it, was at the Jewish Film Festival in January. Of the Hasidic Jewish guy who lost his wife and was left to bring up the son. But the community wouldn't let him bring up the son because something to do with a father can't work and bring up the children correctly. And he actually bucked the trend and did bring it. It was also a good movie, but I think it was a movie in Yiddish.
We saw that movie, Menashe.
Oh.
We saw it, and it's very touching and it's very real.
Right.
Right, especially now because you have so many single parents raising children, and the complications, and it is exactly the way it is. It's not a Hollywood movie. It's really an insightful movie. You really feel for the guy.
But I will tell you.
He's a nebbish.
Yeah, he's a nebbishy guy who has a tremendous heart, and he just can't.
He can't get his act together.
Yeah, he can't make it happen.
I don't think he was a nebbish.
Well, no, it's just the fact that he has so many things going against him.
No, but he had Batesy.
That's true. I mean, and he has tremendous love for his son.
Exactly.
I'll tell you something. You know how I learn about all these Jewish movies? I get a phone call that someone watched something that bothers them. And they call me up and say, can you explain? And I'm like, I don't live in that community. We don't have any rules like that. And I've never heard a rule like that in my life. But clearly there was a movie made about it, so there must be something to it.
Oh.
So that's how I learned about Menashe. Because someone called me up and says, she can't believe it. Is that true? Does that happen with you? I'm like, I've never heard of it. It's definitely not a Chabad thing. But
Rabbi,
I'll actually, if we get to that one, that'll be interesting.
I have to tell you one thing. Being a Spanish teacher, if you went up to someone and the person happens to be female and you wanted to say, are you Jewish? You would say, es usted judía. Well, judía, besides being a Jewish female, is a string bean.
But judía is not.
So I just wanted you to, so you could be.
I've done it many times. I've asked that question many times. But I will tell you that when I was in Argentina, I'm being so honest, when I used to ask people, like, they don't know what Jewish is. Are you Jewish? I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm Korean. That was like the reply. It wasn't like, oh no, I'm Christian. They didn't know what a Jew was.
Right. Right.
There was this Asian who was going to Grand Canyon College, and he had to take religion. And he comes to my house and he said, what is God?
So what's
How
God?
long did you have to answer him?
Well, you know the story. You know the story about the guy. And when I was at the airport, I told you that I was at the airport and this.
We're going to Prague.
We were going to Prague, and this Hasidic man is in front of me, and he said, and I read his bag in Yiddish, and it said Weinberg, and so he looked at me. He said, so he gave me $1 to give to charity, you know. And I said, can I give you $1 for charity? He said, as long as it's not the same dollar. Well, I went when I was in.
No, wait a minute. He was redheaded.
He was a redhead, and
redheaded guy.
We had a discussion. I think it's last year or the year before, where I was at one of your after 12 o'clock get-togethers, and somebody knew Weinberg. He's from Kansas,
right?
And he was a redhead.
But he said that people in Kansas thought he was Amish.
That's the easy. Nice. So Issy, what's the next step?
Next step, we've chosen the movie and Frank parallel stories, and I want you to send out an email the next day or two with that and the date, and we'll follow up. And those of you who want to send me, I will not ask for your email address from the rabbi. If you want to get my emails please send me your email address, and I will include you with whatever updates and whatever I find.
Issy, what do you think the chances are that the Greater Phoenix Jewish Film Festival will include us in their senior films that they're showing?
You know, they know about us. Rabbi Levy, last year, I kind of insisted that SOS advertise at the film festival, which they conveniently forgot about. And the rabbi's written an email to them, got no response. I wrote an email to them, I actually got a response. And that's why I'm saying to you, I like you guys.
Okay.
Just say, don't forget us.
But Phyllis, Izzy explained to me that one of their hesitations to share it with others, not in a retirement community, if you want to call it that, was they lose control of the actual film in a sense. Who are you sharing it with type of a thing? Whereas in a retirement community, they say, okay, here's 40 people watching it. They're giving it to the life engagement director. And after that, they don't expect it to be passed around. That's what Izzy was explaining.
Well, the issue with the film festival is they pay a lot of money for the rights to show these movies.
Yes.
When you see it at Harkins in the theater, they pay the theater for the renting of the theater. But they also pay the group called Menem Shema Films. I don't know what they pay them. Now, when you come to offering this online, they don't want me to buy a ticket and then give you my access code to watch it. They need the money for the ticket so they can pay for the movies so we can continue with it. So the issue, I would imagine that because they're not renting a theater this year, the ticket prices will be less. In the past, if I'm not mistaken, Pinky always used to book, the tickets were about $10 a ticket.
I get it? I think
in the past. I would imagine that they should drop to about $6 a ticket. Because going online, nearly including us, Smile on Seniors, probably gets them 200 or 300 people who would not have gone to the movie house. Never mind the pandemic. So they should sell more tickets. So that's what we want to do. We want to make them aware that we have a database of people that should have the choice to be able to see these movies. I mean, we're sitting at home. This whole idea of this movie group came to me after we showed or talked about Unorthodox. And I thought to myself, you know, all of us are stuck at home. We have time. We can watch. But I was never sure that all of you knew what was available and how to find it. And I spoke to Levi and to Khani, and it took a bit of a push to get them to say okay. And finally, when they said okay, here we are. We've gone through the first step. Hopefully, we'll do the next step. The next step will be just discussing the movie and seeing what else is there. If you guys find any movies that I haven't found, email me, let me know. That's how the whole group comes across.
You understand what I'm saying?
So,
Izzy, what is the difference? What is the difference between them letting a nursing home access to the film versus letting you have access to the film to share with the movie group?
I can't answer you that. 6 months ago, they approached me if I would come onto their committee to help them move to virtual. And I said yes. And I did the research of how I suggested they should do it. I never heard back from them. So any questions that you might have of how they think and what they do,
And they never.
I unfortunately can't answer that. All I know is we should just badger them and make sure they know that we're
the Jewish family. They can't go virtual.
And do you have the address that we, the email address?
When you get
Can you put that in the email?
It's in the presentation.
Good.
Which I've actually got ready now. So the rabbi will probably send out. Rabbi, can you send an attachment with the email you sent?
No, but I can upload it to my website and share a link.
I can do that, but those of you whose email addresses I've got, I will automatically forward the PowerPoint to you so you can go through it.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I probably won't send out the next one for a week or maybe end of the week because I just sent out an email today for a Shabbat to go. So I try not to make your inboxes too busy.
Yeah, but understand that Shabbat to go and the movie group are two different things.
Yeah, but I send it to everyone. So I'll probably do it. It'll be in tomorrow's email. Like it'll have the name of the email and all that.
Right.
And the name of the movie, but it won't be, I won't have a proper email probably till Thursday.
Okay.
The question I
So
have,
guys, this is all the teething troubles, the teething problems that we have.
if we order a meal to go, Rabbi, will you deliver it to New York?
Yes. I can't guarantee freshness.
Especially with the post office.
Right. Exactly.
That's right.
Bye, everybody. It's lovely seeing everybody. Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah. Bye.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Take care.
You too.
Thank you. It was great.
Yeah,
Thank you
very
very much.
Thank you for suggesting the movie.
Okay, pleasure. Pleasure.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
it's
Thank you
great.
again. Good idea.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Take care, everybody. Thank you.
Have you been in touch with Jerry Middleman on this one? Is he?
He's from the film festival.
What?
Jerry's from the film festival.
For the Jewish Film Festival, Jerry Middleman.
Not with him directly. I met with him during the festival. I said hello, and I saw him at the JNF breakfast